Welcome to the Ashes to Wings podcast, where we tell stories of overcomers and give you tips and tricks to living a fuller, more embodied life. Here's your host, Jenny O'Connor.
Hey friends, welcome to Ashes to Wings. Today we'll be talking with Danielle Zack, who is a mommy mentor who supports moms to discover the immense power they hold in their hearts, to connect to the sacred embodiment they are living every day, and to honor the divine role they've chosen to serve here on earth. She is also the founder of the group Sexy and Sovereign Mommas. Danielle, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me today. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to talk with you. So Danielle, tell me how you got into mommy mentoring.
I love moms. My passion is for moms, and that is not something that I foresaw being where I would feel that my calling and my passion was going to be at. When I was young and growing up, I always knew I wanted to be a mom, no question about it. I was obsessed with playing with baby dolls. I had all of the things, the cradles and the strollers and all of it. So many Cabbage Patch dolls. And as I was growing up, I was always the good girl. I was so into doing things right, making sure that my grades were good, and I was very family focused. But as I was, finishing up high school, I had all these plans for what I was going to do with my life and the things that I wanted to do. And while I saw motherhood as being one of those things, I did not see myself working with moms. And it wasn't until I was graduating high school and I found myself pregnant. I found that I was already jumping into motherhood well before I ever anticipated that I would be. So my high school sweetheart, who I am married to now, completely swept me off my feet my junior year of high school, because I was a person that was so focused on everyone else in my home. I was a caretaker for my siblings and always about making sure that the chores were done, the things were done, that everyone had what they needed, because both my parents worked full time. My husband was someone who came into my life and who focused on me and cared about that I had what I needed. And so I was so excited to be moving forward as we were graduating high school, to accomplish and do the things that I wanted to do. I was looking at becoming a physician's assistant at the time and making all of these plans. And we were so excited to start the beginnings of our life together, but not anticipating that we'd be starting a family so soon. So my world was rocked when I found out I was pregnant, to say the least, and everything that I had been anticipating and seeing and envisioning for myself was just like pulled out from under me, like rug completely pulled out from under me. And I was excited because this man that I love, we're still moving forward with the life that we want, but at the same time, I didn't even know what to expect that life was going to be. I had no idea what to expect. And so unprepared for, a motherhood that wasn't just playing with the baby dolls that I always played with, but, living, breathing, actual human being that I would need to care for.
Yeah, the diapers aren't as fun when they're not a baby doll.
No, not at all. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So what was the hardest part about being a teen mom?
The most difficult part of it was feeling like I had no idea what to expect with my life moving forward. I didn't know what things were going to look like. I didn't know if I was capable. It felt like a ton of unknowns, and feeling so unsure about whether or not I was going to really be able to be the mom I had always wanted to be.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much pressure on moms to live up to some standard for, what a mom should look like. and there's so little support around how to take care of yourself and how to actually be a mom, support without judgment, I should say. There's so little support without judgment of
Yes.
how to actually be a mom. And I'd imagine as someone who, you mentioned you were a caretaker for others even before this, that has to be an important part of, um, finding your way. And the fact that your husband had appealed to you, that he helped take care of you. I'd imagine self-care played into that too.
Absolutely. Isn't that the biggest thing when we become moms? It's that it's all of the focus is on doing it right and making sure that we have everything right. And, we have this tiny baby and all the focus is on them, that self-care just really gets swept and pushed aside. And not having that makes us even that much more lost. Like
Mm.
it's that there's all this unsurety in, am I doing it right? Is this going well? What do they want? They're crying again. I don't know what they need. And then, and then on top of it, us not either just feeling so busy and overwhelmed or just feeling guilty to choose to take that time for self-care and self-love that we it makes us even more pulled into that jumbled, chaotic place that new moms find themselves in.
Absolutely. So what do you wish you had known as a new mom?
That is a great question. It's like it's the question that I feel like every new mom is like, tell me, what do you wish you knew? Tell me. I need all of the golden nuggets. I wish that I knew the more that I loved myself and gave myself grace and was just present with my baby and present with myself, that the more joy I would feel, the more at peace I would be, and the more at peace that my daughter would have been too, because then she wouldn't have been feeling my anxiousness and
Mhm.
wanting to be the perfect mom.
Yeah, I think they do. They pick up on that. And I remember when my oldest daughter was tiny, she had colic, and I was so anxious because I couldn't get her to stop crying. And your whole body tenses up, and the baby picks up on that and cries more. And my mother-in-law said, "Just let me try, for a minute." And she just sat down with her, and she was more relaxed because she had less skin in the game. It wasn't her baby to try to calm, and so she was able to relax, and then Sabrina relaxed too. And it was this lesson of they're gonna pick up on your energy, and if you can relax and calm down, it helps them to calm down too. Yeah, so I love that, feeding into yourself so that you can be more present for them.
Yeah. How beautiful is that? That's one thing that grandmothers are so great at. Like you
Mm,
said, the less skin in the game, or anyone that has less skin in the game, they're that objective view and presence in the situation. I feel like we as moms, when we are open to seeing that and then allowing help too, right? Because sometimes it's this feeling of we have to do it right, so we want to be in control, or sometimes just a feeling of it's wrong to ask for help, right? Because moms, we
mm,
feel like, you know, can't do it right no matter what we do.
mhm.
And so this feeling of, are we going to be judged for asking for help? But when we do get the help, when we get to see how someone steps into that space, especially if they do hold our baby and calm them down, that there's so much for us to get to see and learn in those moments. So what a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Um, wow, that's so cool.
So along those lines, especially when you're a young mom, I feel like we learn from others around us even more than books. Or who was most influential in helping mold you as a mom?
Great question. Ah, I love this. So for me, my mom, my mom,
Mm,
absolutely. She, I think what I love so much about you sharing that story about your mother-in-law is that, like, that's my mom as well. And after my babies were born, she would she would hold and she would just sit and rock them, which is what she did with me and both of my siblings as well.
Mm.
She just wouldn't want them to let them go, like let them sleep, let them relax on her. And the amount of presence and love
Mm.
that she always holds. Even now I see her with my my niece and my nephews. I have a couple of I have a little nephew and an itty bitty nephew who was just born a few months ago, and just even seeing the way that she is with them, it's exactly the mom that I want to be. They're just an embodiment of love and presence and meeting, which is my favorite thing when I feel that I'm in the flow as a mom, meeting a child where they're at. No matter where they're at, just meeting them where they're at, seeing them for who they are, and being there with them.
It sounds very present and mindful. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And they can tell, they know, they know when we're present and mindful with them.
Oh yeah. And they're real good at demanding your focus if you're not.
Yeah. They're good reminders too. Good reminders to pull us back into the moment.
Yes. Yes. And there's so much pressure on moms to do all the things, and what advice would you give to moms who feel like they're not living up to that message that you should be, doing all of these amazing things? What advice would you give moms?
Well, the first thing that pops into my head is that you might be trying to do too many things. And especially too many things at once. It's this duality of, and it's something that I have really spent a lot of time, and I continue to spend time working on this. I don't like to say balance. I like harmony, where we feel that in order to do one thing, we have to sacrifice another thing. And the idea that we get to have both, and it doesn't have to be this or that. It's not a dualistic thing at all. It's both and it's a matter of seeing how things flow with us and for us. This, if I could share, this is a huge breakthrough for me in the past couple months.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Huge breakthrough for me a few months ago was that I realized that I was so compartmentalizing all the different areas of my life. So we look at the different roles in our lives as a businesswoman, as a mom, as a daughter, as a friend, as a wife, all these different areas that we have this underlying like subconscious notion that we need to show up as a certain something in each of these areas. We need to be something, we need to do. It's almost a way of feeling that we need to prove ourselves, because that's how we measure whether we're being successful or not. And so we can feel like, well, if I don't show up and I don't do all these things for work, then I'm failing there. But then also if I don't show up and do all these things for my kids, I'm failing there. And then my friend keeps calling me and I feel like I'm failing there. Versus, so we feel this pulled apart, really pulled apart. And when we realize that we get to be the same person when we show up in all of these places, and that when we show up somewhere, it doesn't mean that we're taking from another area of our life. So if I show up fully present as a mom, that doesn't mean I'm not being a great friend or a great wife. We get to be one cohesive, harmonic soul, individual person, and we get to show up as this completely whole version of ourselves all the time in every moment.
I love that. It's such a beautiful image versus, I tend to think of it as wearing different hats, and I have my boss hat on, I have my mom hat on, I have my coach hat on, and it's such a beautiful idea that we're fully present and fully authentic in all of those roles, and they work together in synergy.
Mm.
Yeah, I love that visual. That's really pretty.
Synergy. Yes, that's a
Synergy.
perfect word. It's a perfect word.
Yes, I love that. Are there any tips that you have for making mom life easier?
Yes, right. We always like,
Like our
what,
practical tips.
what can I do? Tell me, what can I do? My practical tip is to be curious, which might seem really off, off the wall. Like, what in the world is that? And when we are curious, we are being open, we're playful, we're allowing for flow. We're allowing for movement when we're curious. So even when something is coming up and we're just like, oh my gosh, and we go right into restrictive mode and we're like, da, 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 da. When we're curious, as far as sometimes it's okay, so what does this mean? Like, why is this coming up? What does this mean? Or we're curious about, okay, so this is here. So what do I get to do now? Or the biggest thing, and because I have teenage girls, being curious with my children, especially when I feel like I don't understand like, what is going on, and instead of being in a like my own frustrated space of what is going on, or what do you mean, or why do you think that, it actually being honestly curious and open to, okay, so how are you feeling? So what do you mean by that? Like, what is actually happening? And just being in that curiosity, we're always present. So that seems to be like the theme of this conversation, which I absolutely love. Curiosity brings us back to the present moment, and it allows us to move. It allows us to not to be open versus being constricted. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, is to remain curious.
Yeah. I feel like it goes into that flow state, and kind of that relaxing into the flow, and things are going to go a little bit easier than if you're forcing everything and you're, frustrated. And I know one of the things that I work with in somatics is sort of the visceral response in the body when you hear no, but versus yes and, and anybody who's done improv has done the yes and game. And but it speaks to that openness and curiosity for, let's work together on something, and being open to, it may not look exactly how I thought it was going to look. and anybody who's raising kids knows that feeling.
Yes.
Because when you bring this tiny baby home, you have all these plans, and then they grow into their own person. And sometimes you're going, how did you come from me? Because I don't see any connections. And other times you're like, oh God, yeah, that's me. That's mini me right there. And oh, wow, did I sound like that? But yeah, I think I love that approach. Just that openness to and curiosity for who your children are as individuals, as people, why they believe the way that they do, why they think the way that they do. And I think that's something too that not all of us had growing up. And it was a different generation, but it was more like, this is how our family believes. Here's this. And there was less room for, well, what do you believe? How do you think? How do you see this? So I love that you take that tack of wanting to see, where your daughters are coming from.
Yes. And we learn so much when we do, whether it's we're asking a 3-year-old and being curious about what is happening with them, or a 17-year-old like I have. We learn so much. That's where the unexpected comes from too, and some really beautiful, fantastic things.
Absolutely. Children especially have so much wisdom, and it's at such a basic level, but I feel like there were so many times that a child would say something and you're like, oh, it's so simple, but it's so, it hits at your core, and I feel like kids have way more insight than we sometimes give them credit for. Yeah.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
So I work in somatics, which is connecting the body and the emotions. How did truly feeling your feelings in the moment impact you?
Yes. Well, I feel like this is such a theme of our conversation today, feeling our feelings in the moment, being so present. And when we open ourselves up to feeling our feelings in the moment, we are, especially without judgment, we are really giving ourselves permission to move with grace and flow versus being restricted with expectation, which is really the opposite of curiosity, right? Either we're open and curious, or like we have expectations of how this is going to turn out. And that's where the restriction comes from, because it's that.
I want to pause there, because that is just, that's like a mic drop moment, that curiosity is the opposite of expectation. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to call that out for a second, because that was beautiful. I love that. Okay.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Curiosity is
It's like, I need that on a t-shirt.
Curiosity. Well, maybe I can do that. I'll see if I can work that out for us. Curiosity is the opposite of expectation. And that's, you can feel it, like talking about somatics, like you feel it in the body. Because when we have expectations, that's when it's like viscerally, we tighten up and we're like, this isn't how it's supposed to be.
Right.
And I don't want it to be this way. I don't want to feel this way. We're restrictive and constricted versus the curiosity. And there's no judgment in that. And it's open. And then we get to just, even if it's one tiny step at a time, we get to start moving through it.
I would think having a baby so young, it would kind of knock you off your course a little bit. Does that ring true?
Oh my gosh. It knocked me into a completely different course. Yes. But honestly, it's the unforeseen knock you off your course moments in life that really lead us directly into our greatest joy and our greatest purpose in life.
Wow. If that's so true. It's so true. It's those unexpected, and again, the curiosity and expectation, it's the unexpected moments. Those are the ones that really stand out and change our lives forever.
They do. And for me, because that was becoming a mom, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now and working with moms. And if it wasn't for that completely being yanked, knocked off my course and put into a completely different one, I don't think I would have fully connected with my purpose the way that I have.
And I love how we have all these plans and goals and think our life is going to go one way, and then all of a sudden the calling drops in and you're like, oh, this is where I'm going. It's completely different and not at all what I expected. But I feel like, and maybe this resonates with you too, that all of the things that we go through in life, all the things that we experience are setting us up for our calling and for how we can help other humans through life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. That is like the mantra of my life. Like, all of these things are happening. Everything has happened. Everything is going to continue to happen to bring me to where I need to be, to give me all the experiences that I need to have to give out and serve. I believe that is so true for each of us. It is the beauty of being human. And the fact that we get to experience, to be able to be fully present and in service to each other.
Yes, I love that. Well, talk to me more about your sweetheart, your high school sweetheart, because I know a large part of being a sexy and sovereign mama is your relationship with your partner, if you have a partner. So talk to me about your relationship.
Yeah. All right. So my high school sweetheart and I have been together for 19 years. And and of those 19 years, we've been parents for 17 of them. And what is so beautiful about our journey is that we were thrust into parenthood and then also learning what it meant to be husband and wife and have a relationship and figure out who we are and become an adult all at once. So it's like we were just thrown in and was like, okay, now we get to do all of the things. And what that allowed us to do was because that's such a vulnerable place to be in, it allowed us to be really curious and not realizing that we were, but just to say, okay, there's so much that we don't know. So instead of feeling like we should know these things, right? That there's whenever anything happens in our life, if we feel like we don't know what to do or we don't feel capable, but we have all this resistance to it versus we were like, okay, well, this is where we're at and this is what we're doing. So we're just going to do it and we're just going to figure it out. And so all three of us, me and my husband, Eric, and my oldest daughter, Ava, started this journey together where we were all growing together. And what that allowed for us is to form a really deep bond and also have so much grace with each other versus sometimes where it's like, well, you're not showing up this way, and this isn't how I want it. Like we're instead it was very much we're doing this collectively as a unit and we're going to work together and figure all of these things out together.
I'd love to hear more about your Sexy and Sovereign Mamas because you're a coach through this. And what does it mean to be a sexy and sovereign mama?
Yes. So short answer, it means to be fully embodied and in love with yourself. So the sexy part is pretty obvious there, right? But that's not just on a physical level. That is on such a deep internal level as well. And that's where the sovereignty comes into, which is that we are whole, free, powerful beings who innately have everything that we need to live this life and to live it to its fullest as our best selves. And so connecting with our sexy and our sovereignty is being in this, being human, loving ourselves for the things that we feel are fantastic and the other places that we are still growing, and trusting ourselves, which trust as a woman and as a mom is sometimes, at least for me on my journey, I know that sometimes that's one of the biggest hurdles, is to really trust ourselves.
Absolutely. And I think it's something that as moms we grow into, trusting our judgment, trusting our decisions and our choices and how we're parenting. And I love everything about that. I love, that the answers come from within, which, as coaches, we know that when we're working with people, their answers come from within and we just help them discover them. And I love, loving your body and that the sexy isn't just about the physical, that it's, about everything about you and the way that you carry yourself. And I love all of that.
Me too.
Me too. So Danielle, our podcast is called Ashes to Wings, referring to the story of the phoenix transforming and rising from the ashes. I like to ask all of our guests this question: what does rise above mean in your life?
The phoenix. So rising above means in my life being willing and always looking for the beauty that comes from every single moment, no matter what that moment brings.
Danielle, I always like to leave our listeners with a bumper sticker statement. So a summary of what you've just said that would fit on a bumper sticker.
To sum up all of the goodness we talked about, and I hope someone does put this on their bumper sticker. Our freedom is equal to the level of grace that we give ourselves in every moment.
That's so good. That's so good. Our freedom is equal to the level of grace we give ourselves in every moment. I almost want to just let that one sit. That's beautiful. Well, I have a few rapid fire fun questions for you if you're game.
Oh, okay.
Just kind of a little get to know you.
Okay.
What is your favorite word?
Wow. Sovereignty.
Oh, yes. And so good because it ties into your coaching title. Who would play you in a movie?
Gwyneth Paltrow. I'm told that I look a lot like her.
I can see that for sure. Yes. And sort of that beautiful Zen aura. I love that. What is your superpower?
My superpower is understanding other people, connecting and understanding.
Love that. What book belongs on everyone's bookshelf?
That is, okay.
It's tough to choose just one, right?
I know.
I'm such a book addict.
Okay. I'm like looking around because I have books. I am currently reading a book that is fantastic called White Hot Truth by Danielle Laporte, and I absolutely love it. And so I'm going to say that one because I'm just in love with it at the moment.
Love it. All right. What are your favorite pizza toppings?
Veggies, so peppers and onions, and not olives, but peppers, onions, tomatoes.
Yeah, I can't do olives on pizza either.
I'm glad it's not just me.
Awesome. And then my favorite, what is your guilty pleasure song?
Oh.
Like you're riding the car, volume up, singing at the top of your lungs.
So the first thing that popped into my head is when my girls and I go to the beach, because in the summer, we go to Lake Michigan all the time. And so we always we open the sunroof and the windows and we put on Starships by Nicki Minaj because she says, let's go to the beach, let's go to the waves.
Love it.
Yes.
That's such a great visual. I love that so much. Yes. Summer's almost here.
Yes.
Well, Danielle, I know you have a great Facebook community our listeners can join. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So on Facebook, we have the Confident Sexy Mom community. And as moms, community is so important. And to know that we're in this together. And so the Confident Sexy Mom community is just all about bringing providing that space and that container of support for one another in such a loving, non-judgmental way, which, is something that as moms, we struggle with that mommy guilt and judgment and all of that. So, and in there, it's us supporting each other as well as content that's supporting us day to day. And I hop in there with lives and yes. So we would love for you to join us in there, all of the sexy and sovereign moms in there. Come join us.
Love that. And I feel like it's such a rare thing nowadays to find a women's group that is that non-judgmental, safe container. And I know with my studio, I fight so hard to protect that energy because there are so few places that we get that as women. And so I love that you have a space like this for women to feel like they can get advice and not have that layer of judgment there. Love that.
Thank
And you
you.
can find the link for that group along with Danielle's social media links on her guest page on our website. That's at ashestowings.net/Danielle-Zack, Z-A-C-K. So make sure you give her a follow on all of her social media. Danielle, thank you so much for joining us today. This was so wonderful.
Thank you for having me. This was fantastic. I loved this conversation so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So just to recap our episode and some of the amazing takeaway points that Danielle had for us today, the unforeseen, knock you off your course moments in life are usually the moments that are leading us directly into our greatest purpose and our greatest joy. So most of us get hit with these things and blindsided. And if you can sit in that moment and recognize that it's probably going to take you to something even greater, I think that brings you peace and gets you into that flow state. And then she also talked about how when we open ourselves up to feel our feelings in each moment without judgment, we give ourselves permission to flow with grace versus restricting ourselves with expectation. And we talked about how curiosity is the opposite of expectation and how we need to be open and curious again so we can move into that flow state and just feel like things are moving and we don't have to force everything. And then her bumper sticker statement was, our freedom is equal to the level of grace we give ourselves in every moment. So moms, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was so powerful and it fits so nicely with our values at Ashes to Wings that we can all use more spaces with less judgment and more grace, and that if we can be open and curious, we're going to be in such a better place in our lives. Don't forget to check out Danielle's guest page. Again, that's ashestowings.net/Danielle-Zack, Z-A-C-K. Friends, thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow the show, rate, and review, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. The best way to learn is to teach someone else. So take one thing you learned today and share it with a friend. Find Jenny on Instagram at @the_Jenny_O'Connor and online at JennyO'Connor.com. Subscribe for new episodes. Until next time, rise above.